Hey, how's it going? Welcome back. Hope we have enough light here. I'm sitting in front of my window at my craft desk, but yeah, happy. Today is Monday the 19th. It's President's Day. Happy President's Day. Maybe some of you don't celebrate we don't really celebrate President's Day. It's just a day, but I do have my President's Day coffee cup. My sister got me. There's this coffee shop where she lives, and their, I guess the mascot you would say would be President Lincoln, and it's called Fourscore Coffee House. And we don't know if we're going to be able to see that, the glare. It's Fourscore Coffee House. Yeah. So they have some merchandise there. It's in, I think it's Roseville, California, is where the coffee shop is. I don't know if they have online stuff that you can buy or not. I haven't even looked, but yeah, my sister got me this cup, so I thought it's appropriate for President's Day, right? It's cool Lincoln with his little glasses on. I already got it dirty. So yeah, it's Monday. 9 o'clock, a little after. We've just had some rain these last few days. It's supposed to rain some more today, it looks like. And probably, I think Thursday we're supposed to have the sun, but then I think it's going to rain again. So yeah. Also, my sister had got me, I think she got me some, what else did she get me from that coffee shop? Let me see. She got me some stickers. Where did I put those? Oh, here they are. And some buttons. Like, oh, shoots. Time out. Fail. Oh Lord. This is what happens when you have a craft desk that is crafty. Okay, here we are. We're back. It's okay. Nothing was broke, damaged. Yeah, everything's fine. Momentary loss of senses. Yeah. So anyway, my sister got me these, I don't know if she got me another sticker. Anyway, this is stickers I have from there. They have stickers, from the coffee shop. And then, of course, there's this one. And there is this Fourscore Coffee House just sticker. And then she just got me these little buttons. These little buttons. See the little. Try to hold it. Focus. Not on my face. Anyway, like a little button. And then there's this, I call it a traditional style, but classic button. Like that. I don't know what is going on. Oh, I know. Sorry if I made you dizzy. Yeah, it's just a little button. But anyway, I got those things and let's put it up here and not crash the whole back half of the craft table down. Put the stickers away so they don't get coffee. And yeah. Okay, so that was my President's Day stuff. Like I said, I think she said they might have hats. I don't know. Anyway, you can Google. It's Fourscore Coffee House. I'm not getting paid by them, nor am I getting free coffee. Yeah, so my coffee choice today was, again, the Green Mountain, I don't know if I've said this one before. The Green Mountain brand coffee I've been liking a lot. And I prefer the Dark Magic one. It's of caffeine, of course, and it's a dark roast. That's what I have today. It's a non-creamer day, so that means it's just a black coffee, which, yes, I do enjoy just black coffee sometimes. And beans, it's a Monday, kind of early for me to get going on this vlogging thing here, so it is required black coffee day. So cheers to you, Mr. Presidents. Happy birthday. And so today, see, what are we going to talk about today? Today we were going to do some book reviews for January. Yeah, because it's February. So we're going to do some February book reviews. I'm going to dabble a little bit of my December. I only have 4 December reads. I did a December book review video, but I changed my mind on it, and I wasn't sure if I was going to actually do the December ones, because it's just kind of like, it's February now, but means there's only 4 books. I would go over those quickly, just about if I liked them or whatever, and what rating I gave them. But let me move some stuff out of the way. My calendar here, it's not helping me right now. I have a notebook, just keeping notes on my readings, but I will update you on what I'm reading right now. So I finished last night. I finished Don't Fear the Reaper by Stephen Graham Jones. That was the 2nd book in the Angel Lake trilogy. I think I like that. I think I like that more than the first one. Yeah. So I just finished that. So that will be in my my February. Sorry, I'm doing stuff on my. I have stuff in my hand and I can't talk at the same time. My February review. But yeah, I did finish that one last night. I am currently listening to The Outsider by Stephen King on audio, and that's going pretty well. That one's very interesting. It's about this quick synopsis. This guy is arrested for the murder of a young boy in their town, and he's the guy that's arrested. He was an English teacher, a little league coach, and he coached this kid in little league, and he's also married and has 2 girls. And so what's interesting about this so far, which I'm thinking I need to get me a murder board like they do to try to figure out who the the bad guy is, because I don't know, I have a notebook. I take notes sometimes when I read, just to keep everything in order and clear in my mind, because sometimes there's a lot of characters, and so I started doing that like a few books ago, because I had this one book I was reading and it was getting confusing because there were so many characters. But yeah, this one, The Outsider. So this guy has a clear alibi. Where I'm like at 22%, I think, of the audiobook. He has a clear alibi, but yet they have evidence, like people identifying him being in town around that time, that they've seen him. They've actually seen him. And, they have more than 2 witnesses. But yet also he has an alibi that he was out of town. And they have, so part of the police evidence they have is not only eyewitnesses' accounts. They took some DNA that they found, obviously from the victim, and they have blood evidence, which it's the victim's blood, but also it comes back to a blood type of AB positive, which happens to be the blood type of the suspect. But yet he has an alibi of being out of town at a conference with his fellow English teachers. So yeah, so that's where I'm at. But they did arrest him, but they're waiting for the DNA to get back. And I'm trying to figure out how somebody can be at 2 places at one time. Now, my theory right now is he has an identical twin, but I don't know if that accounts for the fingerprints. So the only other theory was that he has somebody impersonating him that went to the conference, that he actually did it and was there. So if the fingerprints, because I think if you're an identical twin, I don't think that your fingerprints can be the same. I don't know. Anyway, so that's where I'm at with that book. Yeah, so that's a big mess with that one. I don't know. That's going to be hard for me to figure out. So we'll continue on with that audio. And I did finish End of Watch, with the last in the Bill Hodges trilogy by Stephen King. The reason I decided to listen to The Outsider was because it said that the character that was in the Bill Hodges trilogy, Holly Gibney, is also in The Outsider, and then a story in the book, If It Bleeds. So I'm waiting around to see Holly Gibney show up in The Outsider, but she hasn't yet. And I'm wondering how that's all gonna, because they were in, I forget where they were at. I want to say Maine, because a lot of things are in Maine. Massachusetts, Maine. I don't know where that was. But anyway, so yeah, hope your day's going okay so far. That's where I'm at right now. But let's see. And then I'm also have an ebook, The Highway by C.J. Box. It's the second one in the Cody Hoyt Cassie Duel series. I think they call it the Highway series. I'm not sure. But this book is picking up in with the TV show Big Sky. That's off this book series. So the first season of Big Sky, it had these two girls where they were traveling to go see this girl's boyfriend, and they got kidnapped by this trucker. And so this is where this book picks up. I just started it, so I'm only at a few pages in, and they're on this. The two girls are on the road trip, and they haven't got kidnapped yet. So I'm assuming this book is where the series Big Sky started off. So since I've watched that season of Big Sky, I know the gist of that. If the series did follow along with the book, so we'll find that out. Anyway, President's Day. Yay. So I guess let's get started with the book reviews. Unless we could probably spend all day sitting here talking on the video, but you guys probably have better things to do. And I have things to do, but I don't want to do them, so that's why I'm doing the vlog. But yeah, so for January, oh, we're gonna do December, huh? Sorry, my memory is, little. Where did I do? Oh, I have to find my little note cards I made so I remember which books I read. So the 4 books I read in December. I'm only doing the December mini book review because I just really started reading again in this last fall. I've always read off and on. I'd have little, you know how you get writer's block. I get book block. You don't want to read. But yeah, so I picked it up again this fall. So I've really started doing that, and that's one of the reasons I thought I wanted to do a booktube blog. I started watching them on YouTube, and I thought they were really fun, and at least you can communicate your thoughts and what you're reading to others out there who might be interested too, and then you can listen to what other people are reading. And some of these books, a lot of these books that I've started reading, I got from other booktubers who are reading these books or mention them, that they want to read them too or whatever. But so I read in December Final Girls by Riley Sager, Prom Mom by Laura Lippman, Back of Beyond by C.J. Box, and My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. Excuse me, got the hiccups. So with My Heart is a Chainsaw, that was my highest rated one that I did in December, and I wasn't sure if I had problems with reading that. I had got the audiobook and the ebook, and it wasn't going very well at the beginning because I was getting confused. I was reading it, but when I was reading it, for some reason my brain wasn't clicking with it, so it wasn't going well. I almost DNF'd it. But then I thought, no, I don't want to do that. I really want to know what the story's about. I heard good things about it. And so I thought I'd try the audio, but then the audio, I was like totally, I don't know. I was zoning out and I was lost, and I was like, what? I was like, I don't know, maybe 20% into the audiobook, and I'm like, what are we talking about and what is going on? So that's when I was like, no, I'll save this for later. I'll do it another time. But then I decided, I'm like, no. I'm going to try it. Give it one more try. One more. And then if I can't do it then we're going to not finish it, and we'll get back to it later, another time. And so I did. I ended up just reading the ebook and didn't use the audio at all. And then I was able to do that, and I started becoming interested in it, and I liked it. The main character in there, Jade Daniels, she's a horror movie fan. I mean, like a big horror movie fan. Like for her history, in her history class, for her paper she did, it was always about horror stories, or the why so the characters do this, or why the killer's like this, and then the plots and the theories and all that. So for her history papers, she wrote these, and so those are kind of intermixed in the story. It'll show, it'll have her paper that she wrote to her history teacher about what's starting to go on in her town, which is in Idaho. It's called Proof Rock, Idaho. I don't know if Proof Rock's a real place, but I know they talk about other places. I've been to Idaho, so I know like Idaho Falls and some different places that they mention. So I know where those are at. I don't know where Proof Rock's at. It could be made up. I don't know. But Stephen Graham Jones wrote this story, and it's the first of the trilogy I think it's called the Angel Lake trilogy. But I gave My Heart is a Chainsaw, I gave it 4 stars. I didn't think I was going to give it 4 stars. I thought it might be a 3. The way it was going at the beginning was definitely a 2, but that was all on me. But yeah, I ended up giving it a 4 star. It was, I think, first published in 2021, so it's not that old. And yeah, so it's about this girl. She believes that there's going to be this like horror story played out in her town coming. Like there's going to be all this mass killings and stuff like this, and it's going to happen on the 4th. They have a 4th of July celebration. They have a lake there, obviously. And well, it's called Angel Lake. And so during this celebration, she's figured this is where the climax of this whole horror story is going to happen. And she's ran into this, she's a senior in high school, and she's met this other girl in high school who's a new girl, and she believes that she's like the final girl person, the one that is gonna be able to end this all and kill the killer and save the day. So she's trying to prepare this other girl who she doesn't really know, and she gives her like copies of her papers and gives her movie suggestions. And I think this other girl's kind of like, okay, sure. I think she's placating her, but I think deep down she probably thinks she's crazy, like everybody else does, because she has a bad home life. Jay does, and she lives with her father, who's an alcoholic, and her mom, I don't know, her mom's in town, but she doesn't live with her. And yeah, and she's part Native American. Her dad is Native, and her mom's white. And so there is a few Native American peoples in this town, and they have the Native stories about this lake and about this town, you know, that they talk about in the book. And anyway, I thought it was a good book. I'm not going to give away the end, but it's basically a slasher horror book, and it does take place in Idaho, and there is a big showdown near the end of the book, I guess, is the showdown. But the one thing about this book was, the reason I didn't give it a 5 star, and it was just my personal reasons, was so this book, it was going like you knew who the killer, it got to where you knew who the killer was, and they were doing their killing, and all this showdown was happening on the 4th of July in this lake, because it was for the 4th of July, they have everybody takes out like inner tubes or floats or something, and they sit out in the lake, and they have this big screen, and they play Jaws for the 4th of July, which I thought was appropriate. You know, I watched Jaws just about every summer. But so they're in this lake, it's nighttime, everybody's having fun watching the movie, and then all of a sudden this murdering starts happening in this lake. So it's like you're watching Jaws, and then things are happening while you're in the water. But so it was going one way. I thought it was clear to me who, you know, the murderer was, and and Jade's there, and this other girl's there trying to stop all this. And then all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but it just kind of takes, like, you're going down a road that's paved and it's peaceful and you know what's going to happen, you know the road, and then all of a sudden the car just veers off to the right and goes down this dirt road and you don't know what's happening. That, my friend, is what happened. So yeah, that was different. Yeah, so it goes kind of off the road that I thought we were going down, and I don't know, it was a little out there for me, but okay, you know, not my story, not anyway. So that was pretty good. I gave it a 4-star. It kept me interested once I could settle down and understand what I was reading, and my brain started working with the story. It's not a difficult read. It was me. I found out, because the second one that I just finished, the Don't Fear the Reaper, was not that difficult. I didn't have the difficulty of when I started My Heart as a Chainsaw. So, yeah, that one took a little veer off the path, and it was a little different for me. So yeah, it did get a 4 stars. My Heart is a Chainsaw. And then the second one I have here is Back of Beyond by CJ Box. That one I did give a 3-star. It was okay. I wasn't like totally thrilled about it. Like, I wasn't excited. I did, you know, want to know what the story was about, how it was going to end. I did want that. I did want to know that. So I kept reading it, and it was semi interesting to me. It was okay. It was fun. It was a fun read. It's an ex-wife and a son who live, I think, in Colorado, and he's back in Montana. He's originally from Montana, and I think he moved to Colorado, and then he got a divorce and he moved back to Montana. And it's Cody Hoyt is the character name, and he's a deputy with this sheriff's office, and he comes across a murder at this cabin, and it is his AA sponsor, I think it was. He's a recovering alcoholic, Cody is. So I would say, and anyway, this AA sponsor is found murdered in his cabin. So Cody's trying to figure out, you know, the whole thing is figuring out who did it and why. And so this leads him to go on try to find his son, because he found out his son had went on this horseback camping trip in Yellowstone with his soon-to-be stepfather, which Cody didn't really care for this guy, doesn't really care for this guy anyway, but he found out he's going on this horseback trail riding camping trip for a few days in the Yellowstone outback. They call Back of Beyond, because there's not any electricity or anything. It's camping, and there's a lot of wild animals, and it's just back to nature where nobody has settled or anything like that. So you're going back to like before, you know, what it would be like before humans came and like settled in the area and started building and doing all these things and bringing in electricity. So it's really out there. So he can't contact his son. So he thinks that this killer may be on this trip too. And so he's really needs to find his son. So this whole story is basically him trying to get to his son and to find the killer, to see if they're really on this trip and who it is. So that's what that was about. It was a fun story. I did enjoy it. It wasn't, you know, like super excited. It wasn't a favorite, but it was okay. I am reading the second one in the series, like I said. So it's also based on, I mean, the TV show Big Sky is based on this story series. So, and I do enjoy the TV show. So I'm hoping that I'll probably continue on. So unless I get into some, you know, books that I'm like, oh, that was not good for me. But yeah, so that's how that's going. And then the third one is Final Girls by Riley Sager. And this is a slasher horror book that I read. I gave it a 3-star. I heard good things and bad things about, I think, this book on YouTube and maybe I think Goodreads. I don't know what their average was. It might have been a 3-star. I don't know. But I've heard, like I said, there's people that liked it and there's people that didn't like it. So I thought it was okay. And it was interesting. It kept me, wanting to keep reading it. So my average, like a 3-star is just, it's average for me. It's okay. I enjoyed it enough that, it made me wanted to keep reading it, but it might have not have been a 4-star. Like, I'm really excited and I just couldn't put it down. It wasn't necessarily one of those, but like I said, it was a slasher horror one. So this one, we follow these girls who are the final girls from massacres or killings, and they don't all live in the same town, but one of the girls initiated like communication between the others to see if they needed like a support group or whatever, just someone to talk to who went through a similar experience. And so the main character, I can't remember her name, she lives in, I think it was New York, and she does vlogging, baking. She does baking at home, and she does a vlog. So that was interesting. And she finds out that one of these final girls is killed or died. Hold on. My dog's having a little panic attack. Okay, sorry about that. Yep, my dog had a little, she's sleeping under the covers on the bed, and her nails are really long right now, and I thought maybe her nails got stuck on the thing because she started whimpering, but I don't know. She could have been dreaming too. My dog has anxiety, so so do I. Yeah, so we're 2 peas in a pod, but she's fine. Everything's fine. Her nail's not stuck. I do need to get her in to get her nails cut. We call it going to the nail girls. Anyway, where was I? The final girls. Final girls. Yes. So one of the final girls is killed, and then we come to find out later on another final girl dies. So there's 4 of them. And so the second one dies, and they think it's a suicide. But these 2 last ones get together. One, the one that does the baking vlog, she gets a visitor who is the other final girl. That I think that one's the most recent one to join the, I guess, so-called group. But the main girl, her story was that she was in a classic horror story at a cabin in the woods with some friends. And there you go. You could probably figure it out. So a killer or killers come and slaughter all her friends, and she's the only one to survive. And when she's running out of the woods, running away from the killer, this deputy who happens to be patrolling or something shows up, and she runs into his arms, and he saves her. And so they're like kind of buddies. He kind of always is looking out for her, and he doesn't live close to her, but if she ever needs him, she can call him, or he'll call and check in on her. And this lady, she doesn't live alone in her part. She has a fiance, a boyfriend. I forget what he does. He does something like a desk job or something like that. Anyway, so she's doing pretty good until this other girl shows up at her in town and wants to not necessarily be friends, but I think just kind of visit and wonder about her life and how she's doing after her terrible trauma. And so when this other girl dies, the second girl, this youngest girl is visiting the baker chick. I'll call her the cabin girl. And this sounds really confusing, but it was a good story, a good plot. It's just more of a classic, slasher killer. But it did have a little twist on the end I didn't necessarily see coming. So, because getting near the middle of the end of the story, I was figuring some things out, I thought. And then when it got to the end, when we're getting the big reveal, It kind of took off on a turn that I didn't see that. Uh, my bad. But yeah, so that went a little differently than I expected, but it was still good. It was a good story. I did like it. It was okay. Like I said, it probably wasn't it's not one of my 5-star favorites, but that doesn't mean it won't be for somebody else. Like I said, there's other people that liked it, really liked it, loved it. And then there's people that didn't care for it, didn't like it. I liked it. It was okay. I gave it a 3. And that was The Final Girls. And then the last one I read, which is my lowest rated one, and I probably haven't read a book that I was really disappointed in a while, but this was Prom Mom by Laura Lippman. And I gave it a 1 star because I kept reading it. I stayed with it. I kept reading it. I don't like to DNF books. I figure if I feel like they're interesting enough when I read the plot or hear about them, then I want to know what happens. I want to know about the story. I want to know how it ends. I want to know if it, most of mine are thriller, murder, mystery stuff that I like to read. I want to know who did it and I want to know why. And that's the same with, I watch a lot of true crime stuff on TV, the ID channel, the Oxygen channel, all that cold cases and stuff like that. I like that because, I want to know what happened. Why did it happen to this person? Who did it? Why did it happen? Why did it happen? Why did it happen? I'm always like, why? And so that's with the books. When I read stuff like this, I'm like, why? Who did it? Why did it happen? What's the plot about? What's the ending gonna be? That's always my reasoning for wanting to read a book. I want to know the story. I want to read the story. I want to enjoy it. I want to try to figure it out. I like puzzles. And so Prom Mom didn't really get that for me. I gave it a 1 star. I think this was published in 2023. I did read the ebook. But this is based on a girl back in high school. She went to the senior prom. I don't know. I don't think she was a senior. She might have been a junior, but she went with a senior, a guy who was her baby daddy. She was pregnant and didn't tell, she didn't tell her mom or her stepdad, I believe, or I can't remember if she told the guy, or not. But anyway, the baby ends up being found dead, and she's blamed for it, and rightfully so, because she's the one that was there. She gave birth in a hotel room after prom. They had rented a hotel because they were going to stay in town and go somewhere else after prom, but they got a room at a hotel, and she had went back to the hotel room early, and she was having stomach problems and cramps. Well, she ended up having the baby, and so they find her there passed out on the floor in the bathroom, and then they find this baby that is dead. And so they say that the baby was killed. She was responsible for it. It doesn't say how. It might say how later, but so yeah, it does say how later. I think it was suffocated or something. Anyway, so it's that classic. I wouldn't say classic. I don't think it happens that often, but it has happened in real life. So yeah, there's been cases of real life of teenage girls hiding their pregnancy and dumping their babies, unfortunately, which is really sad. And so I thought this might be something hard to read, or I don't know, maybe they would make it a little bit lighter, but it really didn't. So the reason for reading this for me was like, well, I want to know if she really did it or who did it, and what happened. So I thought it would follow that whole plot, and it didn't. It just basically, so she went back to her hometown. So she had went to jail, and I forget how long, it didn't seem very long, because she got out when she was still young. She might have got a few years in jail, but she ended up moving to New Orleans and was like this art dealer there. And then her stepfather died and left her his estate, so she had to come back to town, which was Baltimore, Maryland, which is where this background takes place. and take care of his estate, and she was going to sell the house and blah blah blah, but she decides to stay because it's been 20 years later now, and she decides to stay and open up an art gallery there in town. And this baby daddy is there back in town. He, after high school, his parents sent him away to live with an uncle in Texas for like a year, and then he went to college and he met he's married now, and he met his wife. So they've been married 20 years. This girl that had the baby, the prom mom, she never married. She never had any more kids. And then the guy, he doesn't have any, him and his wife don't have any kids. They weren't going to have any kids. And the wife knows about the incident that happened back when he was in high school. So anyway, so that's the backstory about there. But this girl moves back to town. She opens up our own art dealership, art gallery, and thinks that maybe she can come back home and start over again and see how it was going to go, if people in town were going to remember, ridicule, run her out of town, whatever. So she ends up running into the baby daddy again. And so most of the story is like their interaction. It's like his life with his wife. She's this plastic surgeon, the guy's wife. And he's into real estate, like commercial real estate. And then you have the prom mom, who's this art gallery person. And the baby daddy and the prom mom start talking again. And they start having, conversations and seeing each other. And of course, the guy doesn't tell his wife, and he has been having an affair with some other young lady. She's an adult. And the wife doesn't know about that, but the wife also doesn't know he's been talking to his high school prom mom chick. So anyway, so there's that drama. It's more like a drama. It's not, I feel like it was put as a thriller mystery, but I didn't really get any thriller mysteries until if this was a TV movie, it would have been the last 5 minutes that it got really interesting, and you find out like the whole gist of what the plot. You're wondering what happened, like what happened at the prom, and all this, and a little bit of other mystery and suspenseful stuff at the end. It would have been the last 5 minutes of the movie. So I just struggled to get through that because I kept wanting to get to what happened. And it kept stringing it out until the very end of, I don't know how many pages. It was probably three something, maybe 400 pages, of this. It just basically drama of, she was wanting to like get back to know him and have some kind of relationship with him again. And he was never into her. He just went to the prom because his mom wanted him to. And she was his math tutor in high school, even though she's younger than him. She was smarter than him. But yeah, so that all plays out at the end, like literally the last 5 minutes. And it was a bummer. So I thought there would be more action in the meat of the story, and I didn't get that. So I gave it a 1 star. I was disappointed. I didn't like it. I wouldn't suggest it, but if you read the plot and you think it's interesting and you might want into some of that drama, it just felt like an old high school drama. I'm not into that. So that was that. So those were my December reads. I had 4. This video is going to be kind of long. I got to edit some stuff out. So yeah. So the January ones I read, how many did I read? 1, 2, 3. I read 7 books in January. I didn't think I would be able to do that. But some of them were audio, ebooks, and I think I had some physical books. Maybe? I don't know. Anyway, so I read Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. That one I gave a 4 star. I was surprised because I wasn't sure if I'm going to like it. That was about an ex-tennis player who decides to come out of retirement because there's another new and up-and-coming tennis player who is going to try to beat her record. Like she has the record of like the most think Grand Slam wins or whatever. And if you don't like tennis, you might not like this because it does have a lot of tennis reference, and she is a tennis star, so they talk about tennis. I personally do like to watch some tennis. I like the French Open and Wimbledon. That's usually the only ones I watch. But so because I knew about some tennis references and things like that, it was interesting to me to listen to that one. So it's all about her journey back, trying to get, and there's a little love interest in there, but it's not a lot. I wouldn't call this a romance. They call this a historical fiction, and I was like, that's weird, because I don't think of historical fiction this way, but it's historical fiction because of the dates of the story was like, I don't know if it started, I think she might have been born in the late 60s, mid 60s, but it was like 70s, 80s, 90s, like I think the current date was like in the 90s. And I'm like, oh Lord, that's why it's historical fiction. I'm thinking like Western or war or stuff like that. That makes me think of historical fiction, but apparently I'm old, and 70s, 80s, and 90s is historical fiction. That in itself is disappointing. Anyway, I did like that one. I did really enjoy it. I kept wanting to read it. So for the fact that the tennis stuff was interesting, her, the character Carrie Soto, she was rather bitchy, I will say. She didn't have, I don't think she had any friends, but she is very competitive. And I think someone in women in sports and business and whatever, when they are really competitive and they want to do their job and they do it good and they're the best, they always get a note of, well, she's a bitch. That's happened. It still happens. It's always happened, and that's true. And she's a good tennis player, and she didn't go out there on the court to make friends. She went out there to win. And I understand that. I played softball from a little kid up to my adulthood, many, many years. And I played with people who are very competitive, and you're like, ooh, I don't want to play that hard. I'm out here to win, but I'm not the best player on the team. I'm not Mrs. I'm not Mrs. Softball. I'm not going to win that award. But that's just my personality. I'm not, I do like to be friends. I like to have a good game, and I like to play, but I'm really, I'm nice about it, I think, sometimes. But, I am really competitive. And that's how this character, Carrie, was. She was extremely competitive, but that's why she won. She won, and she was the top person to win. And she's getting upset that somebody's getting close to beating her record, which I think most people would. I would. If I was the best and I had the top record and somebody's coming up and they're going to say they're going to beat my record, I would probably think twice about going back into my game and not letting them do it either. But anyway, that was interesting. It had an interesting plot like that. And then I read another Taylor Jenkins Reid book, Malibu Rising, which I didn't really like that one. I gave it a 2-star. And I think it would have got a 1-star. The reason I gave it another star was the setting was in Malibu, which I've always loved Malibu. I'm in California, but I'm in Northern California, so I'm not down there in the action-packed ocean zone. I love Malibu. I love just the setting of Malibu. I love the idea of Malibu, and so that setting. And this is about, and that's the reason it got another star, honestly. And this was 2021, I think this book was published. And it is dubbed a historical fiction. And I was like, this setting is from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I think it went back to the 50s because when the parents got married, it was maybe the 50s. But mostly set in the 90s again. And I didn't know, but the crossover with the Carrie Soto character, actually, Malibu Rising was written before Carrie Soto. And so you have a Carrie Soto character show up in Malibu Rising. Just a brief flicker of Carrie Soto in here. It wasn't even, I mean, you could read the two. I read Carrie Soto first, and then I did Malibu Rising. And then I was like, oh, Carrie Soto's in that one. But it was just a blink, really. it was Carrie Soto showing up at this house and throwing a tantrum out in the front yard, pretty much. At this party. So anyway, it's about this family. There's four, two girls and two boys, and the oldest one's a surfer, one boy's a surfer, one boy's a photographer, one girl is, I think the youngest girl is in college, and the oldest one is like a model, and they all surf. So they're all surfers. They grew up learning how to surf and living in Malibu, and they just picked up that sport one day, and their parents split when they were young. When I think the youngest girl, I don't know how old she was. She was little. They were young, and their dad's always been a deadbeat dad. He's off having affairs and not showing up and not being there for them. And anyway, so it's even though this says it's historical drama, I would rebrand this as just a drama, like a family drama, because that's what's happening. It's a family drama. So this oldest sister lives in Malibu. They've always lived in Malibu, but the sister had more money, and she lives in a bigger house somewhere on a hill in Malibu, which they're all on hills pretty much, or on the beach. And then the other ones they grew up in a smaller house in Malibu, and the mom's family owned like a seafood shack or something like that, and they've still kept it in the family, and they still all work there at times, even though that the oldest daughter has money and she doesn't need to do that. She still does that. She still keeps it running because she wants that family history of that food place, and it's well known, I guess. I mean, it still makes money, so they still have it open. But yeah, another problem I had with, and I'm thinking, why is she working there? She could just hire people, but she doesn't. They have a lot of characters in this one, and I didn't really enjoy it because most of the characters they threw in, I think there was a chicken that just ran outside in my yard out the window. My neighbor has chickens, but sorry, that was weird. It was like this little thing hopping in the side yard there. I'll have to check it out later. Anyway, there's a lot of characters. There's too many characters, and they have a blip on there about something about those characters and why, but it doesn't have anything to do with to move the plot along. It's just like you could have killed off like 10 characters and still had your main story. That's what I thought. I thought there was too many characters with stuff that they talked about these characters that I didn't care about. I don't care about that this girl came from, I don't know where it was, Oregon, and she's here and she's not happy and she's thinking about moving back. I don't care. It doesn't have anything to do with the story. They just threw this extra character in there for whatever reason. I didn't like all the characters. I mean, there was the four main characters, the siblings, yes. But the side characters, we didn't need all that. And I started reading this because the thing, it sounded like it was almost like a Kardashian-esque type of thing. And it was talking about like, oh, in the book that this house burns down, their home. It's actually the sister's home, the oldest sister. And so I thought, oh, I wonder if I thought that would be more of the plot of this house burning down and who did it and, why they did it. And legitly, people, this house burns down at the very end of the story. And it's just like, yeah, no, nobody gets hurt, nobody dies. It's just the house starts to catch on fire and it starts burning. And it's like, oh, and the dad came back in the last like 10 minutes and tried to make amends after all these years, like 30 years or whatever. And I was like, this is too much of a family. This is a family drama I didn't like. It wasn't any Beverly Hills housewife or Kardashian type drama that you would expect, like that kind of stuff. It was, yeah. I mean, I want to know about the house burning down, and then it happened at the end. I mean, we know why and how the house burned down, and it didn't completely burn down. It just caught on fire. Okay? So we don't know if the house burned down. But yeah, Malibu Rising, did not like it. The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. I gave that 3 stars. It was okay. It was interesting. I kept wanting to read it. I thought it was pretty good plot idea. They go to this retreat with this lady. So there's this really famous writer that has this writing retreat every, I don't know if it's every year. And she's like this very eccentric lady who's famous and has all these books published that are popular. And one of the main character girls, she gets invited to this retreat on, not necessarily accidental. And she has this ex-friend, or ex-roommate, ex-friend that also gets invited on the retreat. Well, she's having a lot of anxiety about that because her and this friend has not got along. They had a breakup as far as friendship goes, and it was bad. And anyway, this retreat that this lady puts on, usually whoever wins like she picks a story and she'll get it published, and you go on tour with this famous writer, and you become pretty much have a hit story, a book. And so she was really this girl. I'm sorry, I can't remember names. I should have wrote it down, but I didn't. She goes on this retreat reluctantly, knowing that her ex-friend got picked too. And there are 5 or 6 of them. They go to this retreat. It's out in the woods, somewhere in upper New York. And of course there happens to be a storm that comes through. So then there's no electricity and they can't get away, and the snow's piled up. Well, anyway, some weird things start happening. And this lady, the retreat lady, the famous writer, she's kind of weird. I would think some people would say, oh, she's just eccentric and she's famous and that's how she's going to act. But she's weird, and she has a housekeeper that's weird. And then the cook they have a lady that's a chef, a cook there. She seems decent. But, and then the other ladies that are there at this retreat, they seemed okay. Some of them are kind of iffy. Like, you don't know if there's something up with them or they just have personal issues or what. But they seem to all get along at the beginning. And then except for the 2 friends, they just kind of try to avoid each other. But then in this writing retreat where they're having their writing get-togethers and things, of course, there's little snippy things that happens. And then they have to pick a subject that they're going to write about. And so this main character, she picks the story about this house. This house has a story with it about a lady who, one of the past owners of this house, she was into seances and calling on the spirits and stuff like that. So some things start happening and you're wondering if it has a paranormal aspect to it. And the main character, she's deciding on what she's going to write about, is a fiction story about this lady in this house and the experience, because they say it's haunted and this lady was killed there and her husband and all this stuff. And so the main character decides to write a story about that. So she's doing research about it because the house, it has books that are biographies and stuff about this lady and the house and the man and all this stuff. So she goes down that road. And in the meantime, some things are happening and she's not getting along with her ex-friend, which is obvious. And this lady that's running the retreat, the famous writer, she's starting to act a little weird. And you're wondering what's going on with her. And then one of the writers disappears, and they're not sure if she's dead or if she just tried to run away or whatever happened. So, things start happening, people start disappearing, and this main character, she's, thinking if she's seeing things or if things are really happening. So you don't know, you're torn between, is this really happening? Is it a paranormal thing that's happening in this story? And then everybody seems to be going cuckoo. And yeah. And then there is a big storm and they can't get out, and the couple of people have disappeared, and then the shit hits the fan, and then all hell breaks loose at the near the end, and you're trying to figure out, are they all going to end up dead, or do they get away? So that was interesting. That kept me on my toes of wanting to know about that. I did give it a 3-star. I did enjoy it. It wasn't like super, super fun. I don't really read a lot of paranormal type books like that, but this was interesting. It had an interesting aspect on the history of the house, incorporating with this lady, what she was writing her novel about. But yeah. And then I did read Triptych by Karen Slaughter, and I did give that a 4-star. I really, really enjoyed that. That is the first one in the Will Trent series. I do have that book. And it's Karen. There's a TV show, Will Trent, that it's based on her series here, which this first book does not coincide with the way the series started. It's different. It was different. Just so I can say, some of the characters were not what it is on the TV show. But I did really enjoy it. I do want to get the second one. Like I said, I gave it 4-star. I really enjoyed it. I would have gave it a 5, but it just, I didn't think it was a 5-star for me, even though it could have been close, but I'm not into giving half stars. So I either go, it's a whole star, up or down. Either way, make a decision. But Will Trent, it's about this guy, Will Trent, who's a agent in the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and he's brought in on a case where a young woman is murdered in this apartment complex in the, I guess you'd call it the projects. They call it Grady Homes or something like that. And there's another detective, Michael Ormwood. So this detective, Michael Ormwood, is also in the TV series, and also with the vice cop, Angie Pulaski. I think that's how she pronounced her name. She's also in the TV series, and they're also in the characters in the book, which I like it when they carry over the same characters. But like I said, some of these, not Will Trent necessarily, but some other characters, like the detective Michael Ormwood's character in the series is a little different than what the book portrays him. I will say that. So it opens up with a news article about a murder of a young girl named Mary Alice Finney from June of 1985. She was 15, and she was found murdered and raped. And the person they caught and prosecuted and went to jail for was a John Shelley, who was also a teenager at the time. And so that starts out, like, you see there's this other murder, current present day murder that happened of this I guess prostitute, drug addict girl at these apartments they find. And then we see this news article. So what's happening in the book, it got a little confusing at the beginning, because they start talking about this current murder, and then they go into this John Shelley and the murder of this Mary Alice. But it's basically about, there's like 2 stories in one. There's the current story with the current murders that are happening with the Will Trent and Detective Michael, and Angie comes in there. And then there's the backstory and the current situation that John Shelley, the convicted murderer rapist, is now out on parole. And what he's doing, he has a job, and he lives at this apartment house with other ex-cons. And so it goes in about telling his story, the things he experienced in prison. So this story it's a very graphic story, especially, I mean, it's graphic. The murders are graphic. The things that happened to John is graphic, and all that. very graphic. I know I've heard that Karen Slaughter, her stories, they are very graphic, which I understand that. And it doesn't, scare me off or anything like that. I just, you departmentalize, and it's a story. It's not real, even though some things could be based on real things. Who knows? But just a warning there that this one is real graphic. But anyway, so this follows along. They're trying to solve the current murder, but then it's going in the backstory with this John Shelley. And it's like these two stories are happening. And you'll hear about the John Shelley, and then it'll go into the Will Trent and what he's doing, trying to help with this other murder. And so I'm like, we're following two stories in one book, and I'm waiting to see when they meet. And they do. It comes together, because I thought it was going to be like, oh my God, I'm reading two stories in one book. How are we gonna make Will Trent, who is the main character? Because at the time, the beginning, Will Trent wasn't the main character to me. He wasn't. It was more talking about the detective Michael and the ex-con John, pretty much a lot. And so I was like, this is called Will Trent, but okay. So it did come together. It mashed it up. The two stories, came together. We figured out what was going on, and it had some surprising surprises. It had some surprises, and at the end it was surprising. Definitely, you find out who the murderer was. You find out what happened. Yeah, that's, I guess, all I'm going to say. I did enjoy this series. I'm excited to get to the next one. I can't remember what the next one is. It's either Fractured or Undone. I can't remember. But I will be continuing on. And the second season of Will Trent on ABC starts on tomorrow. I think it's the 20th, tomorrow. I can't remember what time. But anyway, I will be watching. Yes. And again, that was Triptych by Karen Slaughter. It's the Will Trent series, the number 1. And yeah, really excited. This is the kind of stuff I like to read. It sounds really bad because it's really graphic, but it keeps my mind, it keeps going, like page turner. That's what my brain needs. Okay, we're getting close. The next one is a Final Girls Support Group by Grady Hendrix. Now this one I gave a 4-star. I really like this a lot more than the Riley Sager Final Girls book. This was a horror thriller one. This one I initially started taking notes because it had a lot of characters, and I was like, oh Lord, I don't know if I'm going to get through this. There's a lot of characters. What are we going to do? So I thought I'll just make some notes, and I made notes. I don't know if you can see that. Actually, let's do this. Oh my God, no, you got to see this. This is the first time I probably made notes. Made notes, highlights, notes. Yes, it's notes. This story needed notes. I messed myself up. Yeah, I needed notes. And I did enjoy this. I did. At first I didn't think I was, because there's there was too many people. And it starts out they're in a support group because all these people have had a horrific trauma of surviving a mass killing of some kind. Again, same theory, horror slasher type of story. And so this was published in 2021, I think. And I listened to the audio on this one. And now what was surprising for me, and I was actually excited about it, because the narrator was narrated by Adrienne King. Adrienne King was the actress in Friday the 13th. I believe the first and the second one. She played the final girl, pretty much. And so when I found that out, I was super excited to listen to it on audio, and I wasn't going to read I wasn't going to read the book. I was going to listen to the audio because she did a good job. She did a good job narrating, and I like the fact that she was actual final girl in a horror slasher film, a classic, Friday the 13th. And So anyway, that got me right there. She probably got 1 star just for that, probably. But it starts out, they're in this support group, and there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like five or six. I guess 6 if you count the counselor lady there. And they all start arguing. They're arguing about they've been in this support group for like, I think it was 16 years or something. They've been coming to this support group. And now they're all starting to argue about, oh, she brought in coffee, or she did this, and she's not supposed to have her phone on. This petty little things. And I'm thinking, you're here, and then they start thinking that, oh, they're here for, somebody says they're only coming to the support group so such and such will come, so she won't, like off herself or get back into drugs or whatever. And so it's hilarious because they're at this support group supposedly supporting each other through this horrific trauma that they've all encountered. They each have different stories, which I like, that the book, it goes into a little bit of their story and what happened to them. Every so often you'll come across, oh, this character, and it'll talk about her trauma, her survival, what she survived from. And so it was interesting that you get that. And also that this support group, I didn't feel it was very supportive, because they're all arguing now, and they're saying, oh, I'm only coming for so-and-so will show up. Well, no. And then they'll go, no, the girl that said that. Then the others say, well, no, we're only here for you so that you'll show up and so that you won't offer yourself. And then it's just like, no, you're not. No, you're not. I'm just like, so they just start fighting it. And I don't know what this counselor is doing, because I'm like, your support group does not seem like it's going very well. Because I thought a support group, I've not been, but it's to support each other through your own issues, but you should probably get along in your support group. Otherwise, I don't think it's working, and you should probably just quit. But I don't know. It's just my theory on this story. But so anyway, so the main character that we see, I gotta put my glasses on, look at my notes, is Lynette. And I will tell you, when I first met Lynette on this audio, I did not like Lynette. I thought Lynette was cray-cray, beyond cray-cray, that she is just, she's the one that's probably, whatever this horror is going to happen, these killers, it's got to be Lynette. She's crazy. And I understand why she's crazy. She's crazy because of the, when you find out about her story and what happened to her, that would probably make somebody a little cray-cray, a little paranoid, a little, going off the deep end. I get it. Sorry, I'm fixing my craft area. I haven't been there in that situation. Thank God. Thank God these are just stories. That's why we read them. But Lynette was cray-cray. Okay? That was my first. She's off the rails. And I'm thinking, oh, Lord, this is not going to go. This is where at the beginning of the story. And I'm like, this isn't going to go well for me. But anyway, it moves along. You get to hear more about Lynette and what happened to her. And you understand why she's paranoid and why she's just, she carries weapons. She has an escape route, like escape route A, B, C, from her apartment building if something happens. And then something happens and she thinks it's, so one of the girls they find out from this group is killed. She's killed. She's murdered. And so now Lynette thinks that someone's after them and is going to kill them all. And so she's trying to figure this out, and she kind of gets some help from her counselor support person, and which is a big mistake. The lady brings her home to her house to keep her from running away and protecting her. And you should probably never bring psychotic people into your home, especially when the lady has 2 kids, 2 boys, teenager and a little boy. I thought that was a no-no. That was I knew something was going to happen there, which nothing did. She ended up leaving and blah, blah, blah. So Lynette's on this journey of finding out who this killer is. And, this killer is coming after, it seems like, each of them. And it goes on. And I keep, I have notes in here. Lynette is cray cray. Yeah. And so it follows along this story. It's, each story of these girls has a familiar, say, horror story, horror movie type of story that they're associated with. So one of the characters, Julia, hers is the movie Scream and Scream 2. Hers is like that. It's a boyfriend and his friend who killed a bunch of high school kids, blah, blah, blah. If you've watched Scream, you know what I'm talking about. And then you have another story that it's like Halloween, when, like, how, if you've seen Halloween, how that happened with Michael, a brother that's killed. Anyway. And then there's also, what was it? There's just different ones. It goes through Friday the 13th. That was, I don't know if that was Lynette's or what's, but, yeah. So there's these different stories that are supposed to be similar. These girls' backstories are similar to certain horror movies, which was interesting to me how they put that in there. It wasn't the exact horror, but it was like whoever the killer was and how they did it. It was similar like that. So anyway, they go along. Lynette is on the run from the police, and you think this one police deputy or sheriff, whoever he is in on it, and he knew Lynette back in the day when that horrific tragedy happened to her and her family. He was there. He was a deputy at the time, and anyway, he's known Lynette a long time. And yeah, so there's just all these things happening. There is a lot of characters, but it's not a difficult read, and the character follow is not that difficult once you make some notes. But no, it's a lot easier. Even though you have a lot of characters, like I said, the characters with Malibu Rising had too many characters. This, I don't think, had too many characters. This, if you have a lot of characters, at least make it work for your story, where you're moving the plot along, or you're helping out, understanding another character or what's happening. That's fine. That works for me. But when you have characters, it doesn't matter what their backstory is, and it doesn't help move the story along. I don't care. But this one worked. This one worked with all the characters, I felt. And I really liked it. Like I said, I gave it a 4-star. So it just had a lot of things happening. It had a lot of these had a lot of characters have backstories that coincided with the horror movies. Like I said, Halloween, Friday the 13th, Scream. I think there might have been a couple other ones. Maybe Silence of the Lambs a little bit. Yeah. It was interesting. It was an interesting story. I did like it. And I've heard good and bad things about this book, so I don't remember what Goodreads, but I did listen to the audio just because, like I said, I found out that the narrator was actually an actress that was in horror slasher Friday the 13th, and that was great. So the next one is Mr. Mercedes, Stephen King. That's the first one in the Bill Hodges series. And it was okay. I gave it a 3. It probably it's not going to be one of my favorite Stephen King books. I did listen to the audio with all of the trilogy, all the books. I've listened to the audio. So it's the same narrator, the actor Will Patton narrated all those. And the book I'm listening to, Stephen King, The Outsiders, I'm listening to the audio right now, is also Will Patton. So he might have done a lot of Stephen King narrations, which I like him as a narrator. But yeah, so that I gave 3 stars for Mr. Mercedes by Stephen King. I listened to the audio, and I think this one was published in 2014. It's a horror thriller suspense. It's not so much, it does have some horror aspects. It is graphic. It is graphic in the language too, very much. And it's about this ex-detective Bill Hodges, and there is this mass murder that happened. This guy runs over a bunch of people standing in line at a job fair overnight. They're trying to get work, and so they've all, people have come out and we're going to spend the night and staying there to line up for this job fair that was happening the next day. And this guy driving this Mercedes runs a bunch of people and kills a bunch of people over. Runs them over and kills them. And then there's people that are injured. So that's what that's about. And so Bill is getting taunted by this guy who has done this, and there's some other murders that happen that get connected back to this guy. And his name is, the bad guy is Brady Hartsfield. That's not a, it's not a spoiler. And then also who ends up, Bill meets this lady, and she ends up having a niece that comes to town, and her name is Holly Gibney. So that's how we come across the character of Holly Gibney, which I'm waiting to see that shows up in The Outsiders. But it's a good story. It kept me, wanting to know what was happening. Kept me wanting to read it. I was interested. I kept staying interested. Nothing. There was probably a little bit of slow parts at certain things, but overall, it was it moved along pretty quickly for me. And I did enjoy it, and I did want to read the next ones. And so the next one I did listen to the audio was Finders Keepers, which is the number 2 in the Bill Hodges trilogy. And I think this was published in 2015. I did give this one 3 stars again. So these have been averaging, this particular series, just average. It was okay. I did like it. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't over the top. Like I said, it wasn't a favorite Stephen King of mine. But you continue on with the Bill Hodges trilogy. This one was different. I probably didn't like it as much as the first one, just because it didn't really go in, didn't have anything to do with, well, for mostly the Mr. Mercedes, that murder thing happening there. This had a whole new murder mystery storyline about this guy, this old famous writer. It opens up that he is robbed. People break into his house and think that he has money in his safe. He's this famous writer, and this guy, 3 guys break into his house, and one guy ends up killing him, and he has all these old notebooks and different things of his stories in the safe also, and those end up getting stolen. And what happens, one of these guys ends up going to jail and spending time in prison that had stole these notebooks. And he had hid the money in the notebooks. And so what happens is this kid finds the money and the notebooks, and the kid gets really into reading these stories that the guy never published, that the world thinks he didn't have any more stories to publish, and in fact he had written some but never published them. And so the kid, who's in, I don't know if he's in high school or junior high at the time, he gets really into them and starts finding his love for literature, basically, or by reading these things. And so what happens is later on, this guy gets out of jail and he goes back to find his money in the notebooks, and they're not there. So it's a whole, trying to figure out where they are, blah, 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 blah. So it's that kind of thing. And then at the end, you have a little bit of interaction that the Brady character and Bill Hodges and Holly Gibney's in it, character again. And I really probably my favorite character in this whole series is Holly Gibney. She's just an interesting character. But that's the Bill Hodges trilogy number 2. And then the last one I have in where did I have? Is that the last one? I think I went over them all. Mr. Mercedes, Finders Keepers, Final Girl Support Group, Triptych, the writing retreat, Malibu Rising. Yes, we covered them all. Oh my god, this is a really long video. Sorry. I just talk. Maybe I should have a podcast. I don't know. Oh, that's too much right now. So anyway, so yeah, that's my wrap up for my January reviews. And we will decide. And I will decide what my March TBR is going to be. I haven't decided that. I did finish The Last Final Girl by Stephen Graham Jones. That was a library book I have to take back soon. And I did a initial little review on that. It's going to be looped in with the February stuff. But, what was I going to say? I have yet to pick my March reads. I haven't finished all of my TBR from February. I've started on The Hollywood Wives and with Jackie Collins. And this book is surprisingly opened up. The first part that I read was the prologue, and it's like maybe it's like a half a page and a half page, so a page. It starts out with a murder right away, and so I thought, oh my god, I didn't know that this is how Jackie Collins was going to go. I would have read this a long time ago, because I thought it was more of a Beverly Hills housewife type of drama type thing like that. That's what I think. And so that was my assumption of what Jackie Collins's work was, you know, celebrity, gossip, that type of thing. But when it opened up with that murder, I thought, oh, I've had that totally wrong all these years. And then when I get into after that, when you get into the first part of the book, like the first chapter, it's reading like a Beverly Hills housewife, because the lady that it's first talking about here, she lives in Beverly Hills. She's married to a celebrity actor, and she has a big house in Beverly Hills, and she ends up going to meet her friend at this this restaurant that the celebrities go to for brunch or whatever. And so it's reading, and I'm not very, oh shoot, I just lost my place. I'm not very far in. I mean, I just barely started reading it because I was listening to the audio and reading those ebooks that I was trying to finish. And so I think I'm on like page 16, not very far. So I got to start reading on that. But I have the, let's see, the audio I'm listening to, The Outsiders. I also have the ebook, The Highway by C.J. Box. And I have this physical book of Hollywood Wives. And I have another book coming online that I have on hold that I told him I wanted it delivered after the 22nd on Libby, which is Beartown, which I've heard a lot. I've heard some good things about that. I don't know that I've heard that anybody doesn't like it yet, but I've heard quite a few that want to read it, or they have read it and they really liked it. And I have that on for audio coming soon. And then soon after that, I should be getting the audiobook of Pet Sematary. That's on my 24 for 2024. Yeah, so I just have to pick out some books for March. I'm not sure if I'm going to get through my February TBR. I hope so, because I really want to read those. So what I might do is if whatever I don't finish in February, I'm going to probably roll that over to March, because I do want to read those, and I don't want to put them off anymore, because I'm curious and I want to know what happened. That's probably my biggest reason for I want to know what happened. I want who did it and why. Should be a tagline or something for this, because that's pretty much the reason I like reading. Is this, obviously most people do, is the stories and find out what happened, right? But anyway, yeah, so that's my January book reviews that I finally got done. Again, I did finish a few books just recently, a couple of books for February, and now on to my current physical books that I want to read. I haven't been getting a lot of books from the physical books from the library because I've been just finding so many things that I want to listen to or read on the Libby app online that it just keeps me busy with that if I got a physical book from the library and the physical books I have at home that I want to read, I just don't have time to get them all read. I mean, isn't that the big problem? We have so many books and so little time. It is true. But just want to say happy President's Day, and I need to warm up my coffee. It's getting kind of cold. I do like cold coffee, but just black coffee cold is another story. Anyway, so yeah, enjoy your President's Day. I know some people have today off, and you're probably not going to see this today. It's going to be hopefully tomorrow. I get this. It'll be Tuesday when I get this up. Anyway, it looks like it's going to rain. I'm getting some very gray skies out, and we'll be back again with you soon to talk about some more books. Or if you on my channel, if you want to give me a like or hop on over and look at other videos. I also have cooking videos, food videos, and some little once a month I like to put up a little short I call a bonus short of just something like under 2 minutes, and it's generally just like, I think I've just did 2 so far, one for January, and I just put up February's and I put it up on Sunday, so yesterday. Yeah, so generally I like to do my little bonus shorts once a month. I try to get it done the 3rd Sunday of the month, have it up. Just a fun little thing, under 2 minutes, whatever. Generally it just has music in the background and some scenery or something like that. Just something mellow. And then on Saturdays I usually do a lot of food content, like cooking or whatever. But Saturdays, I know I had one, me and my sister, I went to see my sister. We had a baby shower to go to, and that was my shenanigans with my sister. That was fun. So, yeah, my booktube stuff, I generally like to put up on Tuesdays. So we'll see how this thing continues, and if I get more content, I'll put up, not necessarily, I'll put up on another day of the week too. But yeah, enjoy your week. Hopefully you have a good day off. If you have a day off, if you don't have a day off, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, well, we'll see you later. Have a good one.